Hey, what's up? Welcome to my channel, where I make bikepacking videos and sometimes I review gear, and today I'm going to review a bunch of bags from Outer Shell. So before I get into a bit more of a detailed review on each item, I just wanted to talk about some general observations that I've had from these bags after having a chance to use them on and off for the last 6 months. And that first observation is that the quality of the materials are really high, and these are actually handmade, hand-stitched in San Francisco, and that quality really shows through. I've taken this through a lot of rain over the fall and winter here, and it's really stood up. I haven't seen any fring or any issues or any loose threads like that. So if you're looking for durable material, definitely this is meeting that requirement. The other thing I'll note though is the attachment systems for a lot of the bags are a little bit, I guess, more to be desired. And what I mean by that is that I found that these clips that attach the handlebar bag and attach these stem caddies or these feed bags, some of them sometimes they become loose when I was riding, and they just don't really seem as strong as something that I would want to, I'd say, perform if I'm in the backfield. And another part with that is that the straps don't seem to work together that well in terms of a systems perspective. What I mean is that they tend to get in the way of each other. So this bag's a little bit off center because of the clips for the stem caddies that are there. But also you can see the frame bag attaches at this point on the head tube with these Velcro straps, but also the stem caddies do as well. And it just tends to get a little bit in the way of each other. For example, this handlebar bag is supposed to take this cord and it's supposed to wrap around the head tube, but it's hard to do that when the stem caddies are over here and the Velcro gets in the way. So I think one of my pieces of feedback for that would be to think about those a little bit more from a systems perspective. And then my final note is that this Velcro that's being used is quite coarse in some areas. So you're definitely going to want to put down some plastic or some kind of frame wrap to make sure that it's not going to rub off. The last thing I did want to mention is that because these are all handmade, they are a little bit more expensive than other bags that you might see on the market. This Seatpost bag has 10.5 liters of storage capacity. It retails for $145 US or $190 Canadian, and it's dropper compatible. I had a chance to put this on my bomb track, which has a 110 millimeter dropper on it, and it worked just fine. I have no issues with that at all. It, like many other bags in the market, attached through some straps through the saddle rails. I'm not a huge fan of this type of system because you do get tail wag as a result of that. I found that there was a moderate amount of tail wag when I was riding, kind of just enough to bother me when I got out of the saddle. I'm a huge fan of dedicated rack systems when it comes to Seatpost bags. For example, my Porcelain Rocket Mr. Fusion, which has a cradle that attaches to the seat post here. That's not dropper compatible, but I also have an Arkel seat packer, which attaches to the seat rails, and I've been using that a lot lately, and I really like it. The quality of the bag's really good. It's waterproof on the inside, and as I mentioned before, with all the other bags, it's quite durable. The only other issue that I would note with the bag is that the materials that it's made out of are quite dense. There's not a lot of flexibility in there. And there is some padding or some plastic in the bottom here as well to provide a little bit more shape. And what happens as a result of that is if it's not very flexible, I guess you can't stuff as many things into the bag when compared to, say, that porcelain rocket bag that I talked about, which uses more of a dry bag system that really allows you to stuff a lot of stuff in there. So for the price, I think it's a little pricey compared to something else you might be able to find, but it's certainly the highest quality material and stitching of any product that I've used. This half frame bag from Outer Shell retails for 90 US or 115 Canadian. As far as I'm aware, they do not make a full-size frame bag. It has 2 waterproof zippers on each side. This one has a larger compartment, and then on the other side, just a small little pocket to put some small items, and I usually keep my repair kit in here and my pump. I've been really enjoying using this on my different bikes. You'll see that on this frame, which is a 60.5 centimeter frame, there is quite a bit of space left in there. It does fit my partner's medium, I think it's a 54 centimeter touring bike perfectly. But when I put this on my Bomb Track, which is also an XL bike, there's even more a gap in here between. The only downside with the strap system here on the frame bag is, though, although I could get it to fit on these bags, the straps just weren't quite long enough on the top here. So it's working well because I have this stem caddy attached where the Velcro's all kind of locked together, but on its own, it was quite difficult to get that there, so that could just be a little bit longer. And I'm generally a advocate of full-size custom frame bags because I think, and you know, this might be just coming from someone who rides large bikes, but there's a lot of space in there to utilize, especially for really heavy items. And so a custom bag is going to best use that space that's available to you. But with that being said, I found that this bag generally fit all the different frames that I tried it on quite well. It's very stiff, it held up very well to the elements, and for the price of 90 US or $115 Canadian, it's a pretty good bag for its value, and if you're in the market, I would recommend. These stem caddies or feed bags retail for $60 US each, or just under $80 Canadian each. So that's putting you at about just over almost $160 for the pair. I think that is a little bit pricey when you're thinking about how much volume of storage you're going to be getting for that price. And generally, I'm not a huge fan of feed bags because I just have such long legs. So when I stand up and climb to get out of the saddle, they always hit them. I have used them previously, but what I've done is I've just bought a chalk climbing bag for, I don't know, 20 bucks and just sewed a couple of straps to them, and that worked just fine. As I mentioned before, I'm not a huge fan of the system here for how it stores the bag. I mean, it holds on just fine. It's just not super aesthetically pleasing. And also, you know, this is a 90 millimeter stem and they just barely fit on it. So if you're using anything shorter than that, you might have a hard time getting them to fit. In terms of them being waterproof, they are made out of the same waterproof material, and they can be cinched up. Ultimately, water will get in here if it's raining. But yeah, in terms of the price, I'm not necessarily sure that I would recommend them for the price. You could probably find something else out there that had a little bit better aesthetics to it, and something that would perform just as well, but for less money. This handlebar bag retails for $90 US or $115 Canadian, and it has a lot of pockets on it. There's a front pocket, you could put, I don't know, a map or something like that, a little side pocket, as well as this thing that you could, I guess, attach your keys to or something like that. And then there is actually a zipper pocket on the inside, so if you had to keep anything dry, that would be the place to store it. As I mentioned before at the beginning of the video, I'm not a huge fan of how this attaches to the bike. And you can see that there's just these two straps with how it attaches, and it tends to move around a lot. There is a cord here that's meant to go around the head tube, but with the stem caddies in place, it's basically impossible for me to put that around. I actually found that even when the stem caddies weren't there, I had quite a difficult time being able to attach it. So I would like to see something that was a little bit better to be able to attach that around there. When I was riding the other week, the bag actually flipped up on me. Yeah, I really like the quality of the bag, but like the way it's held on with the strap, it's been popping off. And I was going actually up a climbing trail and it flipped completely over. My GPS unit that was storing in there came out. I'm not really sure that I would see myself recommending the purchase of this handlebar bag. I just haven't had a great experience with it in terms of how it functions and how it attaches to the bike. And I also think that the price is a little bit steep. So you could probably find something that functioned a little bit better, and you could probably find something that did it for a little bit less. These are the Pico Panniers, which retail for $200 US or $260 Canadian. And they look like they have between 4 and 5 liters of storage. They are meant to be attached to your front forks. I don't see that there's a way that you could attach them to a rack and have them on the rear of your bike. And they attach to your front forks by using this piece of plastic. I'm not actually too sure what it is. And this piece of plastic slips into there, and then you use it to mount to your boss mounts this way, and then this would wrap around your fork. If you're riding a bike with front suspension and you don't have boss mounts, they sell an adapter kit for $90 US or $115 Canadian, which essentially is just some hose clamps and some tape. Also, when these came in the mail, they weren't in any bag or anything like that. And so by the time they had shipped to me, there's all these loose bolts everywhere. So I actually only ended up using the Pico Panniers once on an overnighter. I wasn't very impressed with them in terms of how they performed, and I think they're actually very expensive. When I took them out on the overnighter, I found that they moved quite a bit when I was biking. The weight was shifting back and forth. Another thing is that, I mean, these are relatively easy to mount onto your bike, but you have to take them off if you want to ride without it. Otherwise, you just have this big piece of plastic hanging out there. And I guess when I think of panniers or a type of bag system like this, I want something that's just easy to remove. So say you had a little rack on there, you could just take the pannier off easier. So I'm not sure that I would recommend these in terms of the price. It's quite pricey. I think there's a lot of other alternatives in the market that you might want to look at. And then my only other comment is that for $90 US or $115 Canadian, I mean, you're really just getting some soft tape and some hose clamps. You could go to a hardware store and get the stuff for much less if you wanted to put on your hardtail. But even if you were to use this, I mean, you're always gonna have this on your fork. It's always gonna be there. Not super sold on the Pico Panniers. This is the outer shell Hipslinger, or as I would call it, a fanny pack. It retails for $105 US or about $135 Canadian, and it's waterproof. It has a roll-up top here where you can roll it up and prevent the water from getting in. And then to access items, I guess you could unroll it at the top, but that might be kind of inconvenient if you're wearing it. Or you can open it with a zipper on the front here or a zipper on the back. I found that when I was riding with it, I didn't have any issues with, say, my back or my hip getting sweaty because there's this little mesh piece. which prevents, or I guess adds a little bit of airflow that prevents that. I've generally gone back and forth with how I use these types of fanny packs when I'm bike packing. Sometimes they're nice to carry a camera in, or other items that I just want to access like snacks. I think for the price, it is quite a bit expensive. I mean, the one that I've been using prior to this was just something I picked up at a thrift store for about $10, but it's not waterproof. I could definitely see myself using this on a longer bike packing trip. I like the idea that it's waterproof and it's quite comfortable to wear when I'm riding. I'm just not 100% sure if I'm sold on the price. And I think that the kind of the roll-up top is a little bit interesting. I prefer to see something like a zipper or something like that. So, you know, if you're in the market for a good hip pack to carry something that you need to keep dry like a camera, this could be definitely something for you. The only thing that I really didn't like about the Hipslinger was just how you have all this kind of extra cord flapping everywhere, and this is used to roll up at the top. So I just wonder if there could be a simpler design for how you could possibly tighten up this buckle here. This handlebar harness was the last item that was sent to me by Outer Shell to review. It retails for $60 US or just under $80 Canadian, and it attaches to your handlebars here with a similar type of strap that I mentioned before. I don't have it currently set up on this bike because I found, as I mentioned before, the systems don't work together in tandem, and there's issues getting it all together there at once. So yeah, it attaches there, and then you would have two voile straps that would go around your bag, and you're going to be able to strap your dry bag there. I think for the price, this is a little bit of an expensive system. I mean, you could just buy your own voile straps and attach to your handlebars. I found that when I used it, it still pushed back quite a bit on the bike, and that the dry bag was swinging into my cables, which is what this styrofoam or this little piece here is trying to prevent, but I found it didn't do a super great job at that, and it bounced around a little bit. I mean, I've done long tours with just a dry bag and two voile straps at the front. So I would recommend that you would probably go for a dedicated cradle that would go on the front here. But yeah, if you were just looking for something simple, you could probably just get a couple of pieces of styrofoam on your own and some voile straps. All right, so that concludes my review of these items from Outer Shell. Just to summarize my review, I'd say that these are the highest quality bags that I've actually ever used, and that's evident in the stitching and the fact that they're handmade. I would like to see some improvements of the straps that are being used. I did have some issues with them falling off, and I would like to see them be improved from a systems perspective to see how they might be used a little bit better and how they attach to the bag. There are a number of items here that I really enjoyed using and I would definitely recommend. That would be the Seatpost bag. I really like the half frame bag and the Hipslinger. There was a couple of items like the Pico Panniers that I'm not super sold on, but perhaps you could find something that would work well for you, but certainly not for me. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. And I just want to thank Outer Shell again for donating these bags to the Vancouver Island Bike Pack Collective, which I'm a member of. And we're going to use these to lend out to people who want to try bike packing for the first time.